Welcome, everyone, to the Heart of the Artist. I am your co-host, Whisper Poet. Got my co-host over there, Catalyst. There you go. So glad to be here today. I have the honor of having a conversation with Phynne Belle. I have been wanting to have this conversation for months. When we first came up with the Heart of the Artist concept back in January, Phynne was one of the very first people to confirm with us, and she booked out 4 months in advance. I thought, gosh, this woman is busy, and the day is finally here. So I'm so excited to welcome you, Phynne. Welcome to the Heart of the Artist. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for your gracious invitation. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here, especially since this is Thomas's and Catalyst's venue. Truly loving it. Thank you so much.
So we had this conversation back in January, hey, we're starting this new thing. You want to do this new
Mhm.
thing with us? And you're like, yeah, we can do the thing. We got to do it 4 months from now. So tell us what you have been up to in these intervening 4 months.
Ooh, it seems like deceptively so little, yet a lot at the same time. And I think you would get that. A lot of poets and a lot of performing and teaching artists do get that. It seems like I like to liken it to when I was in the army. And then they had a saying that went like, hurry up and go, or stop and hurry up, or something like that, where there's big moments of pauses. And then when you are hurrying up, you're really hustling. So a lot of my energy lately, within this past first half of 2024, has been going into my new baby, which I'm so proud of, which is a literary magazine online called Mayari. It's had 2 issues come out already. It's going to have a third issue coming out in just a few days. And our community has really rallied behind me and sent in such enormously gratifying work to the themes that I pose. So they're making a big deal out of it. They're treating it seriously, and that just fills my cup so much for them to do that, because this is my passion. This is my love. So I am so happy that I'm having, and you'll hear me saying this a lot, that I'm having the participation of the community that I love.
I think that is fantastic. And one of the things that I've kind of been amazed about our community of poets is that there seems to be um, no shortage of not only the ability to dream something,
Mm.
but the chutzpah to say, yeah, let's do the thing. And a whole community that just kind of rallies around and says, yeah, we'll help you do the thing. And I love that. And I love it, especially that so many of the people doing these things are women. It's really exciting.
Amen.
And
Amen.
maybe it's because we're artists. I don't know. What's your perspective on, or do you have a perspective on how our community manages to be this little incubator for,
Um,
yeah,
I do not put any small part of it with being. I know that the pandemic was a cause of a lot of grief and sorrow, anxiety for all of us. Yet amidst that, there was that little pearl of finding this tribe that seemed to know you exactly. That um, uh, prior to meeting all of you, meeting all the people that I met online, I would meet people here and there in the writing community locally here in the Bay Area, who kind of shared a like mind, or had the same interests, yet we did not completely connect. And then all of a sudden, I was, bombarded, for the lack of a better word, by people who, you know, they 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 basically finished your mental sentences. They would say something that you were thinking. You're like, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. I did not verbalize it, and here you are thinking along those same lines. And that really encouraged me. That sort of energy where they fully supported me with what they brought forth. If I put forth anything, if it be a poem, if it be a challenge or an idea, it was always fully supported by, by the people who were key to my journey in this community. I started out 4 years ago, the beginning of pandemic. You couldn't get me on anywhere. I was frightened. I still am. I'm just telling you that I'm trying to mask it really well. But it gave me, the courage to go out and approach people. That's not me. I'm such an introvert. To speak in front of larger crowds of people, to interact, to see what makes other people tick, and find out that it's in the same tune of heartbeat as myself. So that was encouraging every single day, sitting with people such as yourself, Whisper, such as Catalyst and Tom. And oh my God, I'm not gonna cry, but Stacy Dyson, Miss Stacy Dyson, she is my North Star. I love this woman. And if it wasn't for women like her, 3 years back, she just wanted to sit and talk with me and say, hey, I want to get to know you. And here's something that I want to put in front of you. I'm like, wow, you think me worthy of this kind of stuff? And so it all began there. People who believe in you, truly.
Thank you, Phynne. We're 5 minutes in and you've officially made me cry already. glad we could get that out of the way already. That box made Whisper cry. I love this though. I love this though. And oh gosh, so many things. So, okay, thing number one, I love the fact that we seem to have this wonderful older, more mature woman mentoring younger women. I love that dynamic. I think it is so beautiful. I have my own mama mentor who I absolutely adore, and gonna get to meet her at the Charlotte Poetry Festival. And I just think that there are so many wonderful things going on in our community. I love how we venerate maturity and wisdom, and honor people who are older than us, who have lived more than us, and who have a broader range of lessons to bring. But something you said earlier, I wanted to ask you a question. So you're talking about, when you're in this space of time where you're sort of like waiting for the next thing, right? So you're in this kind of stillness for a moment. Are you one of the folks who will look at this stillness of moment and say, I have to fill this space. Let me find something else to fill this space with?
I love that you asked that question, because it was something that I used to grapple with, having what I perceived as an empty space, and with the necessity of filling it up with something that is, traditionally, or what we consider by society as useful. But I've learned how to respect the spaces, the stillness. They are just as necessary as the moments of movement and so-called progress. The stillness is the moments where seedlings, they take root, they begin to grow. And so I am allowing, in my practice, life in general, but also in writing, to let those moments speak to me, to sit in silence with them and let them speak to me. And they've given me such tremendous answers. They've motivated and prodded on things that I wouldn't otherwise have come to the conclusion myself, had I not sat and just be quiet and meditate with them and listen to the universe.
I love that so much. Can you share one of the things that happened that taught you to learn to be still and learn that value?
I think the biggest impact right now that's coming to mind is this shift in my confidence over what I'm putting forth as far as my poetry. A lot of it I have not shared within this past year. I've kind of slowed down the pace of that. I guess you could say, trying to produce something so I could share something with people. There was certainly a mindset of doing that, where I think it was kind of fueled by a lot of us going to open mics and finding it new and saying, I need to bring new material, and making something specifically for that purpose. Um, Somebody said something recently. It might have been Billy Collins. Good Lord, it might have been Jane Hirschfield, saying about doing these things for the pleasure of yourself as a poet. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I need to really go back and do that, and go back to looking at what exactly do I like and why do I like it about my poetry. And it's turned into this. It's kind of metastasized both grossly and beautifully at the same time, grotesquely and beautifully, into these things that are prose, may not be considered poetry, with immediacy, but they're beautiful to me in they're trying to figure out, themselves. And there's definitely a deeper truth that speaks right back to me, that I'm not trying to please anybody else but myself. And it's so gratifying that sometimes nobody really understands it. It's a secret between me and myself. And then one person I'll encounter will say, they'll have this aha moment. And that's really all I need. It's like, oh, yeah, we're understanding each other. And that's really all I need. It's a sort of Halley's Comet, a Halley's Comet of a thought, where it occurs every once, in a certain amount of time, and it's very special. And it takes a certain sort of elevated perception to understand it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I want to ask you because you're talking about writing prose, and I do that too. And in listening to you talk, I realized that my prose does something different for me than my poetry does. Do you have that as well? Does your prose do something different for you than your poetry?
Um, it 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 used to be, more of, for me I associated my prose more with my root chakra, and my poetry with my crown chakra. And now they're kind of meeting in the middle. Both of them are kind of changing places at any given moment. They both understand that I need to be enlightened, but also to be grounded in where I am. And so that used to be the way that they would, kind of come to me and present themselves. I find that there isn't that fine line between the two of them for me anymore, and I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. They could live in harmony. They can both be, in that sense of not having to identify themselves, not having to box themselves in and say that one is prose or one is poetry. We're all in that experimentational phase, myself and my works. So we're kind of trying to figure out who we are right now, where we want to be, and it's ever flowing, ever fluid.
I love that analogy. That is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Where do you feel like the majority of your inspirations for your pieces come from? You're so busy, you have so much going on. Yeah. Where?
Um, I am really getting back in touch with my Pisces nature girl. I have to admit, in trying to find new and exciting things to write about, I may have, you know, kind of pulled away from the uh, the voice of, the moon phases, or what she is telling, what, just going outside and conversing with the trees, conversing with nature, tells me just by listening to the wind. And so a lot of them, especially now, have been they have been, inspired by, what those symbolize, what things in nature symbolize. So going back to my own roots, my biggest love as far as poetry, and I forgot it for a long time. And you'll probably see it if anybody were to unmask and find my book, which I don't really advertise, that I published so long ago. A lot of it is short form, because I have much love for the Eastern short form like haiku, sendyu, and tanka, and that used to be, where I would place my meditation around, thinking about the connection of nature to human nature. And so that's where a lot of the inspiration used to be. Somewhere along the line, I don't know what exactly prodded this. I'm still trying to have conversations with myself about where this came by. But there was a moment where I was just really adverse to thinking that I would compose any sort of love poetry. And then I did. I did. Still trying to figure out the basis of that. I don't know if it is um, a desire for something idealized. I don't know if it is a longing unfulfilled. I was doing that for quite a bit. I was actually going through my poems, prior to having this conversation with you earlier this morning. I'm like, what have I been doing lately? And I looked and I'm like, sigh of relief. I haven't written a love poem in forever. So that's kind of a relief for me. It's back to talking about, how nature is symbolized, or how my life can be um, talked about by using symbology that we see around us in the sky, in on the ground, on the ground, in nature. And that's my dog in the background growling. He doesn't agree.
So if I could, what you're doing with Mayari, obviously that is for you, but it also is for others. You're doing a great service to the community by doing that. So how do you balance between writing your poetry, which I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that's yours, that's for you, even though you share it with the world and we love it, right? Ultimately, it's for you. And then you've got Mayari, which is also for you, but is doing so much. How do you balance those two so that both of them get the absolute best squeeze of what Phynne has to give, and still, that they both get the good and not be out of balance? How do you do that?
I have actually, probably for the first time in my already long life, learned, discipline in this practice of being a poet, of writing. I never used to adhere to that. I used to, kind of toss it out as an idea that is very unpoet-like. We're supposed to go with inspiration, go with the flow, just be in our ennui. If we're sad, we're sad. If we're just ecstatic, we're ecstatic, and there is no sort of um, control to that. We just go with when the inspiration arrives. I found I have to be a little bit more disciplined, and it is helpful to both those sides. I'm not going to deny that trying to do Mayari has a certain um, commitment, that's not just to myself. It's obviously to the community. I am having to carry forth, the work of other people. So I bear that in mind. I got a little bit of practice doing it over, the past 4 years, when I started with doing my platform, for poetry vocabulary. And it has, taught me that I need to have this more practical side that's planning, um, balance, with my having to do my daily writing practice. So I do now. I never used to do this. I designate certain times. I have an alarm on my on my clock. I have a timer on my clock. I attended this workshop, and she said, set a date with yourself, set a date with your work, and put it on your actual calendar so it'll ring. Say, oh, it's time for you to write. And so I actually have that. Alexa, don't call her. Good Lord, she's I would say, she'll say it's time to write, and I'm like, okay, drop pretty much everything unless it's an emergency, and write, jot down for some lines for about like 30 minutes. And so that's really helpful. And then later on that night, I unpack everything again, and then I really put the work into it. So there is a schedule. I hate to use the word schedule, but there is a schedule to the way that I do things now, instead of doing them, willy-nilly, or saying, okay, this works right now. I have time to do this. Oh, maybe I have time to do this. I have a little bit more structure. Structure helps. Very unsexy sounding, but structure helps.
I love that. And you are not the only one that I've met, and I find it an absolutely fascinating paradox. Poet Sophia Falco is one who has a very disciplined, very orderly process to her writing, and she's wildly creative.
Mhm.
And I'm just fascinated by that paradox of sort of disciplined creativity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that you're making that work for you. As a fellow Piscean, um, I know
Yay.
that would be a
I knew it.
monumental effort for me to come into sort of a disciplined process. So kudos.
I completely get that. Sometimes I sneak back into, that dreamlike state, but it's all part of the balance. It's all part of the balance. Even the dreamlike states, allowing for those days, to do absolutely and gloriously and deliciously nothing. Um, that also that recharges you for the next day. So it all works out.
What has been the biggest surprise about starting Mayari? The thing you didn't see coming that just you went, wow, came out of left field. What has that been?
It has been the sublime quality of the work that has been submitted. I didn't know if anyone would really take it seriously, if they would, just say, I'm going to dash something together today, and see if it works out. People made just really, they have, to my knowledge, put forth some of their best work, to theme. Sometimes they would cultivate a whole time and they would email me about it. I'm like, no, I'm not supposed to know this, but because I'm the editor, don't tell me. But they said, oh, I'm writing something specifically for that, and I'm carving out some time. I'm carving out this week to actually work on your theme. So yeah, it is just the tremendously skillful quality of poetry that's being put forth. I'm learning from the submissions that are being sent in, and the big surprise is that I'm coming from my perspective. When I put out the themes, I thought them up, and I told one person, and I'm going to tell you guys now, so it's not so much of a surprise. I do base it on the positions of the moon in the sky. That's the quarterly theme, and so I when I put them forth, people come back to the theme, and they interpret it in such different ways, and that is still so exciting to me. I think it's kind of ties in with my appreciation of visual art. I like seeing um, more the reaction of people to one art piece, and coming up with a million different stories to it. Each person has a different story based on their own experiences, or what they see in the periphery of the painting, or what they see that other people didn't sense in the painting. And I think the same with poetry. I'm never offended when somebody doesn't get what I'm trying to say, because what I'm trying to say is highly personal. What they bring to my poem is something highly personal to them as well. And we all bring this different picture. I'm seeing my poems and I'm seeing their poems now through a million different eyes. And it's infinitely fascinating.
I perceive you to be a very deeply sincere person.
Thank you.
What was it like having to turn a submission down? Because I'm assuming you've come across that, and I can only imagine that you take that incredibly seriously. I can't imagine a better steward than you of the work that you're receiving. What was that like?
Hard. And again, I'm going to go back to the, you'll probably understand this, Whisper. We're both Pisces. We're big old softies. We don't ever want to say no to somebody, not given any good reason. But even before I started accepting submissions, I made a promise to myself when I was still planning for Mayari that um, this is what I would like to do with the literary magazine. This is what I would like to perhaps pattern it after. And, doing much research in the background of these both online and print literary journals that I admire greatly. I saw the consistency in the work, in respect of the theme, in really reaching the depth of their potential, each poet, when they would submit, or visual artists, if it's a combined type of literary magazine. And then ultimately it came to me like it was a sort of epiphany. I said, you know ultimately, when people don't like rejection letters, they don't. Who does? But it's part of a learning process. If you change the mindset, coming from their end, and see that it isn't in a rejection. I wish we could change the word rejection letter and kind of say it is a rethinking letter, or something better, where this is your opportunity to learn from the experience, and try again, try again, and see if this is a period of growth for you. If you would like to, say, for example, submit to the same publication that you're very adamant about it, whether it be Mayari or elsewhere, you're learning from the experience, and you're actually opening up all your senses, to what you're seeing in the issue. What is being accepted, and what do you think, why do you think they're being accepted? And I think there's that keenness, and that earnestness of wanting to really find the breadth of the topic, instead of putting in something that is maybe not yet ready to hatch. So it's still in its budding process. It's not yet ready. It doesn't mean that it's rejected. It's just it's not quite ready. And eventually it's going to blossom, maybe for that same publication, maybe for another publication, maybe blossom for another purpose.
In some ways, I would think that it almost is an opportunity to give someone perhaps the most powerful prompt they've ever received.
Mm, I like that.
Because it really truly is an opportunity to coach, to coach someone. And I'm sure that you frame it in an incredibly graceful and positive way. If you've got to go away with a no in hand, better to receive one that's empathetic. And I'm sure that you do that with very well.
Thank you. I do try. Kindness is always important. that is the the ruling sun. That is the rule of the universe right there. Can't go wrong with always bringing the grace and the kindness to everything, everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. We talked with Jane Spoken Word last week, and she very bluntly said, "Be nice or go away."
I love that.
And I was like, "Yeah,
I love that.
that what Jane said. Let's do that. Let's all do that. Be nice or go away." So, how many episode or not episodes, sorry, editions of Mayari have you had so far?
I've had two quarterly ones and three, I believe. Three. I could be wrong. Uh, no. Two, two so far. No, I'm sorry. Two. Yeah, two quarterly ones and two special ones that I kind of insert in between. They're like special fun editions that are open to the rest of the public. So yeah, four so far, but a great turn in people and readership. There's been interest, and it's exciting. It's exciting to have people interested in the idea, the idea of it.
So you've been at it for a minute, maybe probably got your sea legs under you a bit. Can you share with us something funny that happened along the way, like a near disaster or something amusing? Can you share one of those?
Oh my! I don't know. I don't know if it would be appropriate to say so, but I guess um, I guess the best way to say it without rehashing or thinking that there was any sort of uh, you know uh, disruption in the love of the community is that um, there was a moment of reiteration of how differently people perceive things. So just I guess kind of the learning of being really clear and transparent with what I'd like to see or what I'm trying to convey, and then also truly listening and trying to support the person that you're in collaboration with. I found out during that process with this particular incident that I have in mind, that I am such a solitary creator. I've always found it easier, even in college. I would say, "Oh, this is a group project. Give it to me because I really don't want to work with so many personalities and have to have anybody be late. I want to be punctual. I don't want some people to be pulling so much weight and some people to be pulling so little weight." So I'm like, "Oh no, I'll do it myself," and that's not the way to do things. You have it's part of the idea is the learning of of collaborating with people and delegating that responsibility and communicating properly. And so with that one incident, it really was this turning point, this learning of um, knowing how to meet in the middle ground, and then if everything falls you know to pieces, how to to troubleshoot, so to speak, how to troubleshoot, how to rectify a situation, or how to kind of step back, take a moment, step back, and reassess and really reopen those lines of communication, with a particular person. So yeah, that's what came to mind. There really hasn't been um, any funny incidents, except in my own like private time when I'm creating the art for it, and I'm having fun creating silly things that are not associated with it. uh, kind of going off in a tangent, but yeah, that's the first that came to mind is having to um, collaborate, and this project was one-on-one. It was one of the special issues, and it turned out beautifully when we finally both understood each other. So I guess the takeaway from that was that you know, no poet was harmed in the process of the creation of this issue.
But you bring up such a great point about communication, and it's always startling to me when I think that I've communicated a certain message and then
Mhm.
find out that the individual that I was communicating with received it completely differently
Yeah.
than what I had in mind. And if I think about, say, something where you're communicating about oh, I don't know, like maybe training someone on how to drive a forklift, right? There's
Mm.
very little room for misinterpretation. Push this button, pull that lever, turn the wheel 15 degrees. I mean, whatever it is, right? It's very
Yeah.
concrete. You are communicating about a creative process.
Hmm.
So you have an image, in your head. You've got a whole view in your mind of how something's supposed to go, and then you have to communicate that, and you don't have those forklift landmarks that
Yeah.
someone can refer to along the way. That has to be just a different level of ability to communicate, and to for you to say it this way and for them to receive it that same way. Have you found yourself having to um, refine your communication process in order to get those creative thoughts across correctly?
Yes, yes. It's been a very active and in the moment, task of not task, but like this journey of communicating ever more effectively, and learning from um, one stopping point, and then moving on from there, because creativity is such a slippery concept to try to convey from one mind to the next, and trying to turn it into something concrete, seems to me to be, I guess, bastardizing it a little bit. So I'm trying not to make it something less than sublime in the transportation from one mind to the other. So it's this constant rethinking of um, how can I convey this and it still remains a beautiful, sacred, beautiful thing, coming from my mind to the other person and vice versa.
I love that. Is there a point where you say, I love this so much, I'm not objective about it, I need another set of eyes on it because I've lost my perspective?
Um, yes, yes. Um, and when you said that, it made me think right away about submissions that have been turned into to the magazine. Um, I'm still fangirling here. And if somebody sends in something, and I'm a big fan of them, I have to really just stop for a moment and say, okay, remember, we're looking at the work here. We're not looking at this whole the whole body of work that they did not submit, that you're so crazy about. We're looking at this one individual piece, and everybody comes to the submission process equally. Equally. If I could if I could figure out and had have the resources for it to be a blind submission, um, eventually I would definitely do that. So I'm not coming with the impression of the person, having, especially if I've known this person and I have much respect for them, with that coloring the what they're bringing forth within that moment. So I I am pleased, and I'm relieved that I do have people who I trust to keep me in check, to be those additional eyes, and to be that that heart that is that is doing the process of intuition. When I'm just when I'm too dazzled by something, or when I'm too swayed by something emotionally. Again, another Pisces trait where I'm feeling emotionally for the person, and I'm not separating all that emotion from the emotion that I'm supposed to be dedicating just to looking at what I'm seeing in front of me.
Absolutely. And I have great respect for you that you have been able to find compatriots who understand your vision and respect the vision and the mission so much, and are collaborating with you. Because I mean, we all know nothing gets done if it's not a team, right? I mean, it's just, there's very little that works well as a solo mission, as an ongoing thing. So, mad respect for what you are doing, and definitely look forward to learning more about it and hearing your experiences with it as you go forward.
I appreciate it.
We always want to hear your amazing words. Do you have something that you would like to share with us?
Sure. Yeah. So I woke up this morning, with wanting to, maybe it had to do with the solar eclipse, but this need to put a ward of protection around myself. And so lately I've been finding, whether it is something that has to truly be have something to do with an incantation or not, it has to be something that um, provides a sigil to my creative being. So anytime I am going to a place, I'm featuring, I have to begin um, my set with a blessing or a spell, and end it with a blessing or a spell. So I wanted to share with you guys something that's called I Am a Banishing Spell. That's the title of it. I am the waiting candle. I am the licking flame. I am the banana blossom heart bearing sand pebble tear. I cast out the hollow trunk chest. I cast out the rot consuming my sugar pulp center forgiveness, gnawing at my guava bark goodwill. I am the pepper bitter rosemary. I am the salt of my dissipation. You do not touch the fine red dust on your knees to the woven mat of our bamboo yielding floor. She sways once. She dances along with the shifting weight within my muscles. She reminds me, in the curvature of my relenting reed body resides the tensile will of twining fiber perseverance, of not cragged patience. You are not welcome here. I am the pungent sweet sage. I am the sacred tree branch. I am my palm cupped beneath the gentle flow the spring water creek delivers in her generosity. Know this, I wash my hands of you. Your fate is not solvent object, is not tangible, is not your will. Through Sister Hecate, your poison is cleansed into its beginnings, into its purity. My surrender is our offering. I see my three stern faces relieved of their sorrow. I am cradled with unfurled flesh fronds of my safety. So it was, blessed be, so it is.
I love that. I have never heard protection words be so beautiful and lyrical, and I'm in love with that. I'm gonna have to play with that idea and concept for myself.
Kudos to Maureen Medina, to my Tesoro sister, bringing back the spell work into poetry. Poetry is spell work. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, you have the floor. I mean, like, come on, feed us, please.
Okay. So I was I woke up my other half and I said, "Hey, if you were listening to my poetry today, what would you like to hear?" And he remembers my older pieces more. And so he just basically said to me, he said, "You know that one about you traveling across country with your parents? Do you remember that one?" I'm like, "Oh, what is that?" I'm trying to remember. Um, and so I think he was talking about this one, and I do particularly love this one. It brings back very specific memories of when we moved from New Orleans to California when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Desert horses. The Red Rock Formation, a faulty television set. Sand becomes fire, not earth. Our family did not go on road trips. Vacations arrive sparse and earnest, filling our hungry youth with their stale order, prepackaged in amusement park delusions that children cling onto, never satisfied, always seeking. A precursor to prepare us for a middle class life. This trip was no different. Mama said we were moving to California. My sister and I took turns sprawling on the fragrant maroon leather seats of our daddy's robin eggshell blue Skylark, cradling the styrofoam icebox between us, feeling like skylarks ourselves. The whole expanse of sky above us, ours and no one else's. If we tilted our head slightly, we could play spatial games with the light on the old coup's ceiling, fading, igniting, creating prisms with their own secrets to keep. If we tilted our head a little more, Spotty nodded sagely at us in unfailing rhythm from his perch on the rear deck. The sun leads the way. We are all moving westward. No soup, we eat flames. Our parents did not know long car trip games. They did not trust roadside attractions. What they did know were children's bellies, how to pack staples like collapsible cups of Coca-Cola and cold fried chicken neatly folded into aluminum foil for brief pauses, for necessary picnics at rest stops, where folks in the South probably still stared at folks who were tiny and brown. Where folks pointed more west probably still let their eyes linger too long on my sturdy, upright wisp of a father, or my mother's pleasing, soft moon face, or on beautiful young girls with smoky tumbles of unkempt black hair and kalumpit black eyes, imagining illicit invitations in the margins of the hot days and scent. Near these rest stops were young men with midnight hair to rival our own, spirits ablaze just beneath the careful, polite shutters protecting the spirits still dancing centuries later in their eyes. Upon their makeshift table were horses thundering across a burlap desert, wood holding the sun's own sacred heart as they danced among their brothers wild. Their marble kin were stalwart, gray ice and almost mute, guardians of wisdom found among stories passed on from mother's teat into daughter's attentive mouth. The most delicate of the marble fillies compelled my hand to lift her from her stately gait on her foremothers' and forefathers' lands. Upon her flank was a single bright sienna flash, only visible if you turned her just right in the fading light. My horse carried her people's undying spark, all their courage and lessons present still. Mustang fly by going home. They slow greet the ancestors in the sky, the heavens ardent with fire. Oh my goodness, I'm not trying to make Whisper cry.
That was so beautiful. I mean,
Thank you.
you had me at the whole Skylark imagery. I mean, just the idea of the car being the Skylark and you're flying west and just all of that. And then laughing at the whole family trip thing, because, we all have our memories of these family trips where you're in the
Yeah.
car forever. And then you had to bring horses into it. And that was just, oh my gosh, so beautiful. That's absolutely stunning. I
Yeah.
understand why he wanted you to read that one. Thank you so much. That
Yeah,
was a blessing.
running, and I still remember. I think somewhere between Arizona and Nevada, and the mountain structures there were just incredibly beautifully, richly reddish brown. And then we did see uh, a pack of wild mustangs passing through. It was surreal and beautiful, and sunset. It was gorgeous. So that stayed imprinted in my mind.
Well,
Mm,
you shared it
mm,
beautifully. It was
thank you.
absolutely, absolutely incredible. So you moved to California from New Orleans as a young woman, but now you're in New York now, right? Or are you still
No,
working?
I'm back in Cali, back in the Bay Area. Yes.
Do you find that your poet community in California has kind of a different vibe to it than your online poet community does?
Oh wow, that's that's probably a subject that might get me in a tiny bit of trouble. And why I love my online community so much. I have to say, prior to meeting everybody, all the global, pandemic community, um, I wasn't. I wasn't taken too politely here locally in the Bay Area with the Bay Area beat poets and this whole Bay Area poetry vibe. If I don't know, I guess the polite way to put it was that I wasn't worthy of that greatness. I was not worthy of that greatness. So luckily, it wasn't a lasting impression. I didn't let it scare me away from creativity or where I wanted to go. And it just it led me to see that it's a matter of perception. It really is a matter of perception. What is glorious to one person may be something that another person can't relate to. Not everybody's um, great poetry. I think that's why we have such different tastes. Not everybody loves Audre Lorde, God forbid, but other people are super crazy about it, and it's just a matter of of what they're bringing to the table at the moment that um, that's coloring that. Also, we are all familiar with having such a rampant imposter syndrome that that I now can see um, and have a compassion for people who come come forward with first with their judgment, because sometimes we are seeing what we're judging within ourselves. I know that if I am not being mindful, I could definitely fall into that where I am coming across and um, judging somebody's work, looking at somebody's work, not with an open heart, not with an open soul, and coming with my own insecurities. If I find something wrong with something, I know now to look to myself. So having the online community, having you guys has been such a big bolster, has been a reinforcement. But then it was that necessary bridge to find this within myself and be confident, within myself. And I guess it's kind of like um, almost like a love affair. You could liken it to a love affair. You are attracting to yourself, what you put forth. If you are attracting, basically, if you're looking for that kind of love, you have to find it within yourself. And so I have a much better relationship now with the local community, with a lot of these same people. And I said, oh, it was it was manifested by what I was putting forth. I was maybe not putting my best foot forward. Maybe I was coming with my own prejudice and thinking that they didn't accept me, thinking that they didn't like me. But they didn't see the breadth of what I could do, which I'm now feeling more capable of. And so yeah, so it's still kind of a thorny, the Bay Area crowd is a weird, tough crowd, but that's a good thing now. That's a good thing. They keep you on your toes. But yeah, if it wasn't for my online community, I don't know what I'd do without you guys.
Well, I love what you said about am I looking at everything through the filter of my own insecurities? Because as above, so below, right? And so we manifest it the way we put it out there. But the
Mhm.
other thing too that I think is really cool, and you were talking about this area where there's a very specific type of poetry going on. So it's kind of like if you go to a potluck dinner and everyone has made lasagna,
Mm.
then suddenly it becomes a lasagna competition. But if you go to a potluck where everybody has brought everything under the sun and there's like meatballs and pimento cheese and spaghetti and whatever, then there's no competition anymore. It's just like, hey, look, somebody brought some cheesecake squares. Awesome. And so I liken the online community to that, like the potluck where it's just everybody and everything. And I think that for me, it definitely has lessened the imposter syndrome risk.
Yes. Yeah.
um, because it's hard to compare yourself and feel inadequate when there's everything under the sun there
Mhm.
being presented, as opposed to the lasagna competition where I would definitely, feel like, oh gosh, is my lasagna good enough? So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the additional charm of opening up the world to us through Zoom, um, kind of softened and broadened, the perception of certain people who I had met, that who had only been within their community. At the beginning of the pandemic, they were, politely cautious, and ended up, now almost 5 years down the road, saying, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know that was out there. I didn't know that spoken word poetry could be this miraculous thing. I didn't know that people who did performative poetry can be just as life changing as people who commit a lot of things to the page and traditional publishing. So it was a lot of this, this exchanging of energy, this exchanging of ideas. um, we all tapped in a little bit into each other. I think we all influenced each other's work. Whether we knew it or not, we kind of filtered um, into each other. I've never really dedicated a piece to anybody, to my knowledge. And all of a sudden I was writing this poetry a few months ago, and I realized that oh my goodness, I am sounding a little bit like myself, but I'm sounding very, very much like CP Mays. How did that happen? Conversations. It was conversations, and all of a sudden I'm thinking and breathing and talking in this way that um, is is coming off of being steeped in those conversations. So yeah, it's exciting to me. It's wonderful to me, that kind of seeps in unknowingly, but really beautifully, and just makes what I nourish myself with creatively with my own writing. It just makes it all the more richer. It does.
I love that. I think that is an absolutely beautiful way to characterize it. That we're all made better by exposure to each other, and we all
Mhm.
influence each other and grow. I think that's absolutely, I agree with you. That's the best thing about this community that we have. It's amazing.
It is.
I can't believe that we are at an hour. It has it's flown by. Would you like to finish us out with another poem?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's a kind of nice little kismet that we were talking about CP Mays because or I mentioned CP Mays because the next poem was that particular poem that I kind of dedicated to him that I think has a little bit of his energy mixing into it. So this has become a current favorite of mine. It's called Venus Arbolaria, which is Venus is the way that we pronounce Venus, like Venus, the goddess of love, Roman goddess of love. And Arbolaria is your holy woman, your witch woman, your medicine woman, Venus Arbolaria. Cha ng damong Maria para sa masakit na tiyan. Quiet down the tide of your arrival, sister. Hush the vehemence of your crimson low moon river. Quell the swelling wave of you, woman, wilded. Imbibe mugwort. Sanguine mark your worth. Stigmata form between your parted thighs proclaims you blessed. Halt the crimson flash flood. Cauterize clean. Behold, they'll make a holy woman of you yet. Cha ng damong Maria. Damong Maria, damo to me. Consume soil, eat dirt, dirty, filthy. Marumi, they say. Maruming marumi si Maria Santissima Sagrada Sacrificio. Sacrifice her, consecrate her, rebaptize her in their image, painted over lily unmarked white. To the nave, where the vestal hearth altar will not burn for her, will not burn for them, will not burn them. They will not burn for her. They burn her whole. Burn her at the stake. Stake a claim holy, holy commit, immaculate conception, birth of a virgin born upon a latch-trapped shell, snap shut. Celibate angels will lift a harlot's weight in misdirection, her story awash in fleeting seafoam brushstroke, history repigmentation, done in a heavy hand, done in the shadowed alley guilt, gilded, golden goaded ratio. The masters, St. Stephen, stone silent, stone ground, cuckold worship, midnight mass attendance, see a God man, span the sky, extend a groping limb, bar us entry to the glassy heavens of the ceiling, to touch his humanity, to self-pleasure his ego, to fabricate the high holy writ in Sistinian gargantua proportions. The reclining goddess is exiled in repose, body incorruptible, body rose, scented sweet, smiling up at her ambient drowsy constellations. Listen, a capon crows 3 times before dawn breaks the heavens.
I totally felt the CP vibe in that piece. I love it. It was incredibly powerful and amazing imagery, and I can't think of a better way to end our conversation. Thank you so much for that. My
Thank
cup
you
is
so
full.
much.
And half of the fun of listening to that piece was watching the absolute sublime joy on Catalyst's face.
That was
Catalyst.
so beautiful. Like I'm bawling over here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Catalyst.
Thank you, Phynne. That was gorgeous. I was
So
looking at your
nice.
link tree. You're so organized. They're just, oh, I love you. I love your brain.
I know, I'm so proud of myself. I'm not an organized person at all. I'm so scattered and yeah, I that link tree is one
It's
point of
beautiful. It is.
thanks. Thanks so much.
I'm just so happy that we've gotten to have this conversation, to get to know each other. I knew you were a beautiful soul, and I know it even more now. And I think you're doing amazing things for the community, and I love it that you're doing it with strong and amazing women,
Mm,
working as a
and that,
team
and
to
that.
achieve the
Yes.
highest good for all. Like, just yeah, good things, good things. Is there anything that you would like to close us out with? Any specific, is there a cause that you're interested in, or just some words of like, this is, take a few minutes to just say anything you want to say. Leave us with your imprint.
Just to, you know, to really lead, lead with grace and kindness. You can't go wrong if you do that wholeheartedly, honestly, genuinely. Um, you know, um, we have so much horror going on in the world right now. Um, it is not a lot to ask, that we show love in even tiny, miraculous ways to each other, checking in on people, reaching out to just say hello can be a saving grace, can be a lifeline for people. I just want everybody to really take care of their whole being, to check in with themselves. Mental health has been never more important, and than it is now, and we understand it much better than we did before. It's not a stigma anymore. To give yourself a little bit of kindness, to give yourself a little bit of time away, and it's highly advisable, especially for people who are as empathic and empathetic as us as creatives. It's very important. So that, yeah. Thank you guys.
That's
You're wonderful.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful wisdom to live by, and the world would be so much of a better place if we all practice that philosophy. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yeah, Catalyst.
Thank you so much, Phynne. You're so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. You too. Kind souls like you. Beautiful souls. I see your soul. I see you. I do see you. See you guys.
Yes, group
Big
hug.
hugs, everybody.
Group
Big
hug.
hug.
Big hug.
We got to do the virtual group hug. Ben, thank you so much. This has
Yeah.
been
Thank
an
you.
amazing interview on the Heart of the Artist. Could not have asked for a more just amazing, kind, loving, just brilliant guest than Phynne Belle. And I'm just honored to have had you here. I look forward to our reunion show, which I'm going to talk about publicly. So when we get to the end of June, we will have had 6 full months of Heart of the Artist. And so the first Tuesday in July will be our half year reunion show. So we want to invite back everyone who's been a guest for these first 6 months together in one room, and just to enjoy each other and have fun and just be a wonderful, loud, garrulous, loving collective of ladies together and sharing time and space. So please put that on your calendar, because definitely want to have you come back.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it. It's going to be momentous. Make a big deal out of it, please.
If you are not already plugged into our show, please go to YouTube, The Heart of the Artist 143. Like us, subscribe, follow, watch these interviews. We just have amazing women with amazing stories doing bomb ass things in the community to make life for everyone better. It doesn't get any better than that. So please check us out and give these amazing women their due by hearing what they have to say. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, love, light, and poetry always.